Put my phone on mute.
Welcome to this live episode of The Tailgate. I'm Michelle Margauz, joined by SNY NFL analyst Ralph Vacchiano, Jets analyst Willie Colon, and of course the ringer in Spotify's John Jastremski. Willie, we're going to start with you. Let's talk Jets and Zach Wilson. What is your overall assessment of his play now that we are approaching the end of his rookie season?
Well, I think up until this point, I think you can easily say he's underperformed. And there's been some obstacles throughout this process for him. And you talk about him being injured, young coaching staff, pieces who've been in and out of the lineup due to injury, COVID. I mean, it's been on and on things. But I think overall with him, what's troubling is he hasn't seemed to kind of take the next step forward. A lot of his mechanical mistakes, I think, come from the neck up. I think he's overthinking. The game hasn't necessarily slowed down for him. And I think at this point, when you look at him as of right now, especially after losing to the Saints, he seems like he's behind the other rookies in the league. Obviously, Mac Jones is number one. He's having a hell of a season. Trevor Lawrence seems like a rookie, looks like a rookie, and smells like a rookie. Justin Fields, at this point, there's promise with him. But Zach Wilson right now, he just seems to be struggling. I think one, he's hearing a lot of voices. Two, I think right now he's not trusting himself and when he's on the field. And so it's troubling it from that aspect. And, somebody tweeted me who said, hey, Willie, how come you're so hard on Zach Wilson? How come you're not giving him the necessary time like other rookies have? Because I think if you look at other rookies in their film and how they're progressing, they're getting better slowly. Later, there's some things they're lagging in their decision making. But Zach just seems to be all over the place. And then me being a rookie at one point in my career, I know the hardest thing for me was just adjusting to the speed of the game and how fast I needed to digest the information I was receiving. So having John back, having LaFleur, having Robin Saleh, having all these voices in his head, I don't know necessarily they're good for him. But right now, if you're the Jets, you just have to chalk the season up and say, hopefully an off season where he can calm down, he can quiet the hysteria, maybe turn off Twitter, maybe turn off Instagram and just focus solely on him and his game and his knowledge of the game and how he processes the game. I think that's going to help him going forward.
Guys, the biggest problem for Zach Wilson, Willie just hit on it. It's between the ears. It feels like he's playing the quarterback position with the yips. And for anybody who plays golf, if you try to hit a golf ball when you got all sorts of things going through your mind, you're probably not going to hit it well. When I see Zach Wilson miss on like 5 and 6 yard simple throws that I feel like I could make and many of you could make for that matter, that's when something's not right, because clearly the physical gifts are there for Zach. But if you can't get the offense in rhythm, hit a simple 5 yard out, hit a simple screen pass, it's the sort of stuff that absolutely destroys an offense. So I don't know what exactly the Jets need to do to get Zach Wilson's mental well-being to where it needs to be, but he's missing too many easy throws, and they're killers. That's the biggest problem. The Jets can't get any flow. They can't have any cohesion on offense. If you can't do the simple things correctly, it's a big, big problem. And it's something that we really haven't seen any change in even since Zach Wilson has come back off the injury. It's the same quarterback that we saw in week 1 or week 2, and that's problematic.
All of that is right, and it's why I'm not worried about Zach Wilson, because I think with a young quarterback, that goes away in time. The more they learn, the more they see defenses. We all want it to be instantaneous. We all want it to be this season, but sometimes that's not the reality, especially when you're not surrounded by a good team. But the things he's not doing right now are things he can do, or at least I would assume he can do. I mean, if they drafted a quarterback that can't hit a 5 yard out or throw a swing pass to somebody, then their scouting department needs to blow up. Obviously, he can do those things, but he's just got, like Willie said, his head spinning right now. Too many voices, too many things going on, and it's hard to do the easy stuff when you're overthinking things.
Willie, he does have a lot of voices in his head right now. Are you personally worried about Zach Wilson? Like, what would make you confident in Zach Wilson right now?
Well, I think we're all kind of hitting on it. His ability to get the offense going. If you look at Kyler Murray last night, right? Who's a small quarterback, but just has the ability to run, has the big arm, has the moxie, can make plays, and can carry an offense, right? That's what we're expecting Zach Wilson to do. Now let's be honest. Kyler Murray's been in this league for a while, right? So things are a lot faster, but he looks like a quarterback. He looks like he has his wits about him. What makes me nervous about Zach is when I'm watching the game and Ralph's covering the game, there's always this talk about, well, he talked to Tom Brady last week. Oh, he talked to a Drew Brees the other day. Well, he had a conversation with Aaron Rodgers. By the way, you're none of that. You're a rookie. You're Zach Wilson. Let those guys be those guys. And obviously, you're always ready to receive the wisdom and learn from some of the greats to ever do that. But being a rookie is allowing yourself to go through the maturation period, allowing yourself to say, hey, I am who I am right now, and which he has done. I'm going to give him credit. After games, he has extreme self-awareness. He goes, listen, I got to make the throws. I got to slow things down. I got to calm down. I'm a rookie. Like, he has that self-awareness. The problem is everything he's saying, he's just not getting better. And so when you digesting that, I blame John Beck. I blame LaFleur. I blame Salas. There's a disconnect somewhere that he's not getting, because it doesn't help his confidence that when he got hurt, Mike White was the next thing of Jeremy Lin for New York. Like, it was Mike White mania. People went nuts, right? And then, Wacko Flacco gets in there. He looks as great. Then there was a guy by the name of Josh gets in the game, and he lights it up. So you have three competent quarterbacks who all run the same system, who all did a hell of a job when they had the opportunity. Now, obviously, Mike White ran to a buzzsaw when he played Buffalo, but nevertheless, you can say that he can play in this league. That's what Jets fans want. They just feel like they just want a competent quarterback who can run an offense, who can give them a fighting chance, or who's competitive. I'm not mad that he's a rookie. I understand that's going to take some time, but there's little things. There's a checklist things that as fans and as viewers and a guy like me who played the sport, there's some things you just need to see better. And he just seems to be lagging for a guy who, when you watch, I know Ralph covered him, so did JJ. When this guy was coming out of college, there was so much talk about, he has an Aaron Rodgers arm talent, his skill set. I mean, wow, he jumps off the page at you. I know he can throw the ball 80 yards, but an 80-yard ball ain't going to always win you the game. It's the little things, like JJ said, the dink and dunks, the rhythm, staying ahead of the sticks and managing, getting your guys the ball in rhythm, finding the right throws to throw. So I'm just worried about him doing the little things, and the yips is a great word. He just has to slow down mentally and do the little things better, and hopefully that happens. But I think the offseason with him kind of saying, "Woo, okay, that's behind me. How do I get better?" and just focus on that.
Yeah, it can't be way too much paralysis by analysis, but I think the idea of Wilson gaining confidence over the next 4 games and at least giving you a game or two where he plays a complete 4 quarters, where the Jets are consistently scoring points. Like, you need a game or two. Maybe it's this Sunday against the Dolphins. Maybe it's next Sunday against Jacksonville. Just a game where it's like, wow, okay, we're scoring 20-plus points. We're putting up points basically quarter after quarter after quarter. A complete game. Is that too much to ask from Zach Wilson between now and the end of this year? Because I'm thinking about it, guys. I can't think of one game this year. Maybe the Tennessee game. Maybe. And even that game, he wasn't great in the first half, where you've gotten 4 quality quarters out of this quarterback. I need that at some point.
JJ, Willie mentioned Robert Saleh and a little bit of blame on him. How would you assess the job that Robert Saleh and the Jets coaching staff has done?
So. I mean, I can't be, throwing bouquets every which way of the coaching staff when they have the record that they have. But I understand it's year 1 of a process. And look, the Jet fan is very impatient. That's the problem that this front office is running into. It's a problem that this head coach and the coordinators are going to run into. People look around the league, Michelle, and they see parity all over the place. You got so many teams between 6-7 and 7-6 where, a couple of bounces of the ball go your way, you're in the hunt, you're in playoff contention. By this time next year, I'm sorry, Jet fans are going to want to see that. So I will give the coaching staff a pass for this year. But if I'm going to have another year, Willie or Alf, where the Jets are 3-11 and they're 3-12 and they're playing out the string in December and January, when you've got a decade plus basically not sniffing the playoffs, you got to go all the way back to 2015, the last time the Jets were close. That's unacceptable in this modern day NFL. The league is set up to give you that quick turnaround. By this time next year, we better be singing a different tune.
I know that fans are going to feel that way, and a lot of the media is going to feel that way too. I don't know what the Jets are going to think about this, because they committed to not just Robert Saleh's program, but just a total rebuild. I mean, they gutted a franchise in a way over the last couple of years that I've never seen before, to have this many young players in. They knew it was going to take some time. So next year, I certainly want to see some progress. I can't imagine, unless they go out and really load up in free agency, which might change the equation, I can't imagine they're suddenly morphing into a playoff team next year. But even if they don't, to me, once you commit to a rebuild like that, you have to be willing to suffer and give it a little bit of time. You can't just keep churning through coaches and coaching staffs. I wrote this the other day about, Robert Saleh's coaching staff. Mike LaFleur looked overwhelmed at the beginning of the season. Jeff Ulbrich hasn't shown anything, but they're building something. So they got it. I don't know what the right time frame is. I don't know if 2 years is it. To me, it feels like it's not enough. I don't know if 3 years is it, but there has to be some patience, because I just don't look at this franchise as being close.
Willie, what are your thoughts on Robert Saleh and the coaching staff?
For me, I think it's a lot to walk into New York and deal with trying to reestablish or set a foundation or some type of culture. They just don't have a winning culture. Not being able to have a seat at the table in 11 years is tough, right? And then I think there really hasn't been anything for him to kind of grab onto. Like the coach behind him necessarily didn't do a good job, right? So he's new at this. Like this is a young staff, new coach, young team. They're the second youngest team in the NFL. They've dealt with some significant injuries this year. You talk about Lawson. You talk about all these guys who've really been hampered, and dealing with a young quarterback who you have to mature and kind of say, hey, we need you to kind of speed this up because, we ride on your shoulders. So I think the man's been dealing with a lot. On top of that, JJ and Ralph, why would you ever be a family man of 8 and go buy a house, right? Like
yeah. Not if I'm in the coaching market, Willie. I'm renting, baby. I ain't buying.
Go rent yourself a big old house in farmland. You know Woody Johnson. Tell Woody to go rent. Like the man I feel like he's just dealing with a lot, and it's going to take time. It's going to take time for him to develop. I think he's done a great job of dealing with the media, being transparent, honest about his progression and the team's progression. But it's a lot on his plate, man. I think he knew that coming in here. He's dealt with the critics, Rex Ryan. He's dealt with, Zach Wilson's questions. He has to deal with Ralph every Sunday. And so
nobody wants that.
Right. That's trouble in itself. So I have some empathy for the man because when trying to win in New York and playing in New York and coaching in New York is different from anywhere else in the league. So I think he needs time along with Zach Wilson.
All right, JJ, John on Facebook says the Jets are going to beat your Dolphins this Sunday. What do you have to say to that other than the fact that you guys have the same name?
I don't think he should be as confident as he is, considering the Dolphins are playing some really good football. Now, there's a lot of COVID stuff going on. So, I don't know if Javon Holland's going to play. He's one of the best safeties in the NFL. He's a standout rookie. But Zach Wilson is going to see something that he has not seen probably in his NFL career. That zero blitz that Brian Flores unveiled in many ways against Lamar Jackson has been a staple of the Miami Dolphin defense. And last time we saw the Dolphins against the Jets, big day for Jalen Waddle. My guy Tua is getting better and better each week. Could see this game being within the point spread. I cannot see the Jets winning this game outright. I'd be very surprised.
Ralph, realistically, how far do you think the Jets are away from competing in the postseason?
Well, I don't think next year is realistic, although honestly, in the NFL now with 17 games, with the expanded playoff field, you could be 9-8 if my math is right and make it to the playoffs. You're really only looking to get to 500. So it's not inconceivable that they can get there if Zach Wilson suddenly arrives. But that kind of depends on what they do in this draft and free agency. They've got a lot of high picks, a lot of free agent money to spend. I haven't really started looking at who's available for them to get, but if they start adding some pieces on defense, and they also remember they're going to get, Carl Lawson back, Corey Davis will be back for another year. They got a lot of, LaMarcus Joyner may be coming back. Jared Davis, you think would be better. A lot of the free agents they had didn't really help them this year, and maybe they can next year, along with another new class coming in as well. So there's a chance for a lot of reinforcements to come in, and it's up to Zach Wilson. If he can suddenly turn into what they think he is, then, maybe they could be in the playoff race next year. But I think the realistic target is probably 2023.
Willie, what do you think?
Well, I'm kind of along with Ralph here. It's going to take a little bit. You know, the one bright spot about this team has been the offensive line. I think thus far they've been. You talking about losing a big key factor in Mekhi Becton, the fact that they never kind of stuttered or stubbed their toe, but actually like that front five, who was a patchwork five, really got better and really developed some chemistry, is what you want for a young quarterback to have confidence, right? You know, JJ just mentioned Miami and the zero blitz that's coming knocking on the door this Sunday. Well, he's going to need protection. And one way they kind of force a young quarterback to build confidence is realizing that he has protection. So when you got the big five up front kind of giving you time, now you say, all right, I got to do my job. All I got to do is settle in and kind of deliver the ball where it needs to be. I think for this team to continue to have success, I think it starts in the trenches. And I think the offensive line has been great, but our defensive line has extremely underperformed. I think the fact that Quentin Williams, who I like, who I got a lot of faith in, I think he's had to bear a lot. I think he's had to deal with a lot. I think Rankins at times, I think he showed his age a little bit this year. I think Fukasi, who I think he started off having a solid year, has kind of tailed off. JFM, ever since he's got signed, you can't find him at times. So I think as a unit, as a defensive line, they got to get better. And it's not me just, kind of banging on them. The stats and their rankings will tell you who they are and what they are. So they got to get better. This is a young defense. But they got to just be better in the trenches on the defensive side. And there's a lot on CJ Mosley, right? Like he bears a lot. He's their ultimate playmaker. And the fact that he doesn't have a guy like Marcus May and valid, they have Bryce Hall, but they're missing some significant pieces on defense that need to show up in a major way. So I just need that defense to step up, and particularly that defensive line, because they were the story. They were supposed to be the rock of this team. And thus far, they haven't been it.
Let's transition to the Giants now, kind of finish up with the Jets. But Ralph, you reported that Joe Judge will be back next season.
Yeah, that's the feeling of everyone I've talked to around the league and inside the organization. Only one man knows for sure, and that's John Mara, and he hasn't talked. In fact, the last time he did, he basically gave Joe Judge a vote of confidence. That was back in October. I think he told the New York Post that he still believes in him and all the things that he likes about him are still the same. I have a lot of questions that go along with Joe Judge coming back, especially with the possibility of a general manager change. But even Joe Judge made it sound the other day like this franchise is committed to his long-term plan. He wasn't here for a quick fix. That's what they said the day they hired him, that, this was going to be, they were committed to him. And I don't get any sense that they are backing off of that. They look at his record, it's 10-19, which obviously isn't good enough, but let's also face the reality that this team has been battered by injuries. The personnel is not great, and he's had to deal with that, but the players seem to like him. They, for the most part, fight hard, and I think the Giants like all that, and they think that if they can change the personnel and maybe shake up the front office a little bit, get him a better team, that Joe Judge is the right guy to lead them to the next level.
I'm down on the head coach, though, Ralph, from where I was last year. Last year, I thought the Giants played hard week in and week out. It looked like they were laying the groundwork for a decent foundation. They have taken a major step back this year. They don't score points consistently. They don't really have one element of strength that they bring to the table. I mean, you look at the Giants week in and week out. What's their greatest strength? It's their field goal kicker, for goodness sakes. Anytime you're a field goal kicker is like the highlight of the team, there is a problem with that. They don't score points defensively. I mean, they got absolutely mauled and gashed by a Charger team that was missing the great Keenan Allen. And I just don't feel great about where the franchise is at again. I mean, forget about what you see at the end of this year. I know Daniel Jones is not there. You thought maybe this would be a step forward. You go and sign Kenny Golladay, give him a ton of money. Saquon Barkley comes back. He's been a shell of the player we thought he was going to be, getting drafted out of Penn State. And I'm just not overly bullish about the state of the franchise. They got salary cap problems. They're in dire need of a general manager. And I guess Joe Judge is coming back next year. I don't think it's going to be particularly better for the Giants in 2022. I really don't. I mean, aside from those 2 first-round picks that they have, how's this getting better for the Giants when they're going to have to make tough decisions with this roster, with this salary cap? Not a good place to be as far as I'm concerned.
Willie, from a player's perspective, what do you make of Joe Judge and his coaching style? Just curious.
Man, to be honest, I liked him. He seemed very old school, kind of blue collar. I was a fan of him when there was a viral clip of him jumping in the mud and the team was cheering him on. And, that kind of it gave me some high school feelings of that, that rowdy, we're going to win. We're going to go get this. He brought back kind of that what makes football fun. And then you go back to how he dealt with Kelvin Benjamin and in the offseason, like how he was tough and kind of he didn't have that back down. Like, hey, we're going to do it my way, and my way is the right way. And so I like the fact that he's edgy, he's tough. But you got to understand, and I think Ralph kind of hit on it. So did JJ. Like, turnover isn't good, man. I mean, I know it's your record is everything, and how you produce and what happens on the field and how the guys respond and all that matters 100%. But you're talking about since Coughlin left in 2015, Ben McAdoo out the door, Pat Sherman out the door. Like, at some point, that was the problem with the Jets. You had turnover at turnover at turnover. At one point, you don't know who you are or what you're looking at anymore. So I think the fact that you do have Joe Judge, valid to JJ's point, they have a lot of things they got to figure out coming in the offseason. But at least you have one thing, you have a head coach. And you have a head coach who's willing to listen and kind of go along with the franchise plan or what's the plan of the future. And so you don't have to go looking around for a new guy or a guy who kind of fits your mold and who you want to be. You have him. So, they got a lot of work ahead of them. But I agree. Giving him one more year, understanding that things can turn around slowly. It's just going to take a lot of hard decisions and a lot of self-awareness and looking in the mirror and saying, hey, what can we do better and how do we get better? But at least you have a head coach who's willing to sit in the trenches with you and do so.
Guys, if he's staying, he's got to be more aggressive, because I watch way too many of these games. I see coaches around the league. They got the right mentality. 4th and 1, 4th and 2, playing to win. I'm seeing way too much conservative coaching from this staff. And I don't know if it means Joe Judge got to get new offensive people around him. I don't know if they got to get an analytics guy in there, but he came in, he said, we're going to coach to win. We're going to play aggressive. Way too many games, including one in South Florida last week, 4th and 2 on like the 44, 45-yard line. This day and age in the NFL, you can't be punting the football. I'm sorry, you just can't.
I get all that, and you're not wrong. I think his feeling, though, is would you trust this offense to pick up 2 yards? And that's the issue he's dealing with, that this offense is so bad. That offensive line is so bad. And he's dealing with now a backup quarterback on top of it, that I think it takes away his natural instinct to be aggressive. I really think if this offense was healthy, if he had a better offensive coordinator in place from the start, you'd see a different coaching style from Joe Judge. I might be completely wrong about that, but the way he talks, it sounds like he wants to be aggressive, but just doesn't think he can afford it.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head, Ralph. I think to JJ's point, which he established early, the one bright spot on his team is the kicker, right? Yeah. So allow your kicker to kick. If you don't have a go-to guy, like go back to the Pittsburgh and Baltimore game. A lot of people jumped on John Harbaugh's head for going for the 2-point conversion. But he put the ball in his co-runner-up and MVP and Lamar Jackson and one of the best tight ends in the league, and Mark Andrews, to win the game from, right? That's called the options. They're the legit options, right? And the analytics, to your point, JJ, was on his side for going for it on 2. So I was all about that. You can only be aggressive when you trust and you have the options to do so. If it's not there, you just got to stay in the game and allow your defense, allow things to kind of manifest during the game that gives you a chance to win. I think Joe Judge is a solid coach, man. I know a lot of people don't like him, and obviously his record gives him reason to, but sometimes you got to keep pushing it through and seeing things through, and hopefully they get to the other side of this and where he's playing winning football. Okay.
Who he hires as an offensive coordinator this offseason is going to be really, really key for him, because right now, and maybe this is fair, but it's certainly the easy thing to do is to blame all of this on Jason Garrett, to blame it on the injuries. Well, at some point, these guys are going to be healthy. You assume they're going to build up that offensive line, and hopefully they bring in a coordinator who, does use analytics a little bit more, has a little bit more of a creative scheme. And I think you have to go outside the organization at this point and maybe shake up that offensive staff. But what he does there might determine whether he gets to year 4 or not.
Not to be a negative Nancy, but Graham Gano is my backup kicker on my fantasy team, and that's the Giants' best players.
Who has a backup kicker in fantasy football, by the way?
When there's a bye week, guys. I have a very deep bench. Our whole league.
I was going to say, seriously.
But before we move on, Willie, what are your overall impressions of Daniel Jones?
I think he's dealt with a lot coming into the season. You talk about, we just mentioned the offensive line hasn't been it for him. It's hard to have a quarterback, to build up a quarterback I mean, you don't have the front five kind of really holding the fort down for you. So I think he's gone through that. And I also think he's just taken a lot on. I think the transition of different coaches, his run style, I don't know if he's the quarterback for the future, but I do think he's a serviceable quarterback. And until they find somebody who's a world beater, I think that's all you have as a Giants fan, Daniel Jones.
All right. So I want to hear from each and every one of you. I'm going to start with JJ, then we'll go to Ralph, then we'll go to Willie. A question that we asked fans last week. Is it better to be a fan of the Jets or the Giants right now?
Oh, man.
Oh, man. Oh,
Please
man.
let there be a third choice.
Turn the TV off.
I'm going to actually say the Jets, believe it or not, because at least it's year one of a coaching staff. At least it's year one for this quarterback. And the Giants, I don't think the fan base knows how to deal with what they've seen over the last 8 or 9 years because they've seen far more success. So there's not a great answer to that question. I mean, the fact that I have to choose one basically tells you all you need to know. But I'll say the Jets at this point, shockingly.
I agree that the Jets right now are the franchise that's in better position. And they also might be, I mean, they're on a lower level than the Giants at the moment, but they do have that, shiny new car smell on their coach and the staff and the quarterback. And you can assume there will be a better future for all of them. They also have a ton of cap room in the offseason where they can add players and a couple of high draft picks and a lot of draft picks on top of it. Just a lot of tools for Joe Douglas to really build up this team. So, I know people over the years have said that New Yorkers don't want to deal with rebuilding projects. And certainly Jets fans have had enough of them. But I think fans will accept them when there is reason to hope for the future. And there is with the Jets. With the Giants, you're looking at their best players have contracts that'll be expiring in the next couple of years. They have no cap room. They may not have a quarterback, but he's probably going to be their quarterback for another year. Their best player, Saquon Barkley's got another year, and he's a shell of himself. Other than a couple of high picks, I don't know what the reason is to hope for this future, except that all of the underachievers will suddenly overachieve, which sounds like a lot to ask. So I guess I'd rather be a Jets fan right now.
Yeah, for me, it's the Jets, and I start from the front office. I think Joe Douglas has done a way better job than Gettleman. And I think the fact that the way he dished off Jamal Adams, sent him to Seattle, and now we got 2 first-round picks because of it. It sets us up to be better in the future. And the fact that we have an offensive line who's competent and we have range now, which we didn't have in the past. You talk about losing Becton, now having Fant and Moses a part of this team, and you talk about. First of all, AVT, Elijah Vera Tucker, that guy's going to be a Pro Bowler for a long time. He's an absolute stud. You talk about McGovern, who's actually, you don't hear a lot about him. You know why? Because he's doing his job, and which is perfect for an offensive lineman. Anytime you don't hear a guy's name, that means he's actually doing a good job. So I think the fact that he continues to build in the trenches, he continues to get guys who can play football, who love football, and who have high character means something. Now, everything else has to fall into play. Obviously, Zach Wilson is a big part of the future, and he has to get better. But I think Robert Saleh, like I mentioned earlier, has done a great job with the media and handling the team. You don't hear Ralph has covered the team a long time. JJ, you've been around New York for a while covering sports. There's no more circus in New York, right? You don't hear the circus talk where it was toxic locker rooms and this happened and that's all out of there. So things are trending upwards. It's just a matter of this young team just playing more football. And that's what I think we don't really highlight. Bart Scott, who I do the pre and post with, it talks about this a lot. He goes, hey, it's easy to judge a team when they have experience. This is the second youngest team in the NFL. They don't have a lot of, battles. They're kind of figuring it out as they go. We just happen to be watching their woes. But this is a team in a year or two, in tough situations and tight games, they're going to know how to respond because, one, they have the knowledge and they have the know-how to combat a lot of things. So I think we just got to be patient with this team. It's hard saying be patient or asking the Jets fans to be patient. I don't know how long they can be patient. The last time they seen the Super Bowl was in 1969. I don't think anybody in this platform right now was alive at that time. So it's a situation where, if you look at what they're doing and how they've got to this point, it's been positive. Now they just have to figure out how to win and win on a consistent basis and get Zach Wilson to the level where he's a quarterback that can compete on a high level.
Ralph, I don't know how age always comes into these live tailgates, but what year were you born?
I was born after the Super Bowl, the last Super Bowl of the Jets. Thank you very much.
I just love to give Ralph a hard time. It's a favorite pastime. All right, well, that'll do it for this live episode of The Tailgate. For Ralph Vacchiano, Willie Colon, and John Jastremski, I'm Michelle Margaux. And we will see you next Monday at 4 p.m. for the next live episode of The Tailgate. Thanks for joining us.